Now, I'd like to ask Celia a question here. Celia, you're the first church secretary I've ever heard named in a lawsuit. You know, if church secretaries thought they were all going to get sued for the property, you know, it might be a hard position to put up and fill. But you are being personally sued as the secretary for this church's property. And how come this congregation doesn't have any funds in its accounts to help defend? How come it has to go to the members now to pay? What happened to the congregation's accounts to help pay for this lawsuit in defending yourselves?
Well, Ron Lee was president and treasurer for almost 20 years. It is against California non-for-profit corporation law for someone to be president and treasurer at the same time. We found out that Ron Lee didn't have any records to explain what happened to more than $100,000 we had. He was voted out of office. Ron Lee left the congregation, and now the district president says he is the true Christian who gets all of our property.
Now, the district, the synod, they're paying for this suit, and they're paying the expenses. Ron Lee's not paying for this suit to keep this church. They're financing the whole thing for him.
Yes, they are.
Amazing, amazing that they're finding a layman, going to declare him the true Christian and owner of the church property that they want to close and pay for the lawsuit in that special exclusion that they passed, that piece of hypocrisy developed by the COP to correct all those pastors who sued the synod's president and after the 2004 convention for voter fraud in that class action lawsuit. And as we all know, they lost their suit. Sherri Strand beat them. They didn't have enough money to fight. It wasn't well organized. And they all were supposed to repent and how evil it was to sue and not use the dispute resolution process. These ladies don't get dispute resolution. No one even knows what's going on here. So Grandma Schmidt and Grandma Hofschneider out there in Nebraska and Iowa and Grandma Schultz there in Indiana, they're putting their money in the collection plate so they can sue these ladies. 6,200 congregations all walking together, or all walking together in court to sue these ladies in this church. This is a complete disgrace. This is the hypocrisy that passes for truth in the Lutheran Church-Missouri Synod. This is Kieschnick at his best. I have another question here, and that is to Celia. Celia, how long have you been secretary here?
I've been secretary since 1995, I believe.
There are only 15 of you people left now because you have to try to find pastors. Are you a little surprised at the resilience of these people who want to hang on? Are you a little surprised? Did you think they were going to go this far?
Well, I knew we were going to go far.
You weren't. You were resolved. You weren't going to fade or back down.
No, we weren't, because we like our church and we want to be here, and that's why we're doing this. And we didn't start it. We're just defending ourselves.
Well, I say God bless you and keep up the good work. And now, Sharon, the lawsuit says that you're being sued because you contracted a woman Episcopal priest. Now, you didn't call her. She filled in some Sundays. Now, what do you say about that?
Well, our district president, as I said earlier, said that any saint could preach and serve communion. Ron Lee was the president in 2006, and he happened to chair the meeting where our Episcopalian priest was contracted. He thought it was a marvelous idea, absolutely wonderful. We voted ourselves out of the synod, and Ron started telling members what a bad idea it was to have a woman pastor. The district president, Robert Newton, told Ron Lee and 5 others to join another LCMS congregation. And then he also said that those people would be the true believers, the true faithful members. The Synod is suing us to give the property to Ron Lee, taking property from people who want to worship.
Now, the interesting part about this is they led you to believe that it was acceptable. Now, obviously, Ron Lee changed his mind. Now, you and I have had discussions, and Pastor Mayer was here last week from the Lutheran Church-Missouri Synod. He was a guest preacher. And you told Pastor Mayer that there wouldn't be any more women preachers and that you were all going to repent of that. In fact, you weren't even sure that you had to repent or should repent, but now that you found out what the Synod's doctrine is on the subject, of which you really were never informed, you've all told me that you're interested in repenting of that, and it's not going to happen again.
That's right. That is correct.
Well, then, if Ron Lee can change his mind and get the property, why can't these ladies repent and keep their property? I think you've all been set up. That's my opinion. We'll have to find out what the courts decide. Now, I'm going to close here with a comment to Portia. Portia, the Lutheran Church-Missouri Synod, in 2007, as I already said, passed Resolution 8-028 to affirm Christian resolution of disputes. The resolution says it's a sin for one Christian to sue another. The fact is that the Lutheran Church-Missouri Synod is suing you, which means they don't really believe that you ladies are really Christians, so they have a right to sue you. What do you think about that?
I read their resolution. They say Christians aren't supposed to sue one another, but the resolution has an exception that would be okay for the Senate to sue us and take our property. You can see why we left that Senate. They're nothing but a bunch of liars. After all the money that we've spent defending ourselves, we could have had a pastor and give him a salary for several years. I wish that all those LCM churches and congregations would please stop suing us.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity. I know you're all sitting here. You're not used to being interviewed. In fact, I'm not used to interviewing anybody either. And this is the first time I've experienced such a process in a chancel of anybody's church. And whoever gets to see this, it's obvious that these ladies have not had experience in being involved in interviews, and neither is this minister. But we don't know how else to communicate this to lots of people who should know what the Missouri Synod is doing. On one hand, marvelous resolution about how they practice this Christianity that respects one brother for another and doesn't sue their brother in court and resolves everything in dispute resolution, except unless we want your property. And then they go ahead and sue for every nickel you got. And they'll take your church away from you. They have this thing called the Blaze. They're so interested in this ablaze, where they want to have witnessing and missions, particularly in the inner city. This is supposed to be inner city congregation. These people own their own property, and they're trying to shut it down and take it away from them. Maybe it's going to help finance that new district office that's got to have some things paid for. Maybe we can move the district president's desk out in the parking lot. Maybe you can go back and find a real job as a pastor in a congregation. And maybe the whole Synod would be a lot better place, a lot better off if every district president didn't get a salary and had to go back to the church and be a pastor and let the rest of the congregations run themselves like it all worked so well before 1965. I wish you all God's blessings, and one thing we can be certain of, the Missouri Synod will keep on suing and suing each other again and again and again. Have a good night. Thank you, ladies, for your opportunity to speak here and present this information.
Thank you, Pastor.
Thank you, Pastor.
Good night.
Good night. Good night.